Welcome to the Modern Day Naturopath Podcast with Dr. Sue. Real talk for those craving deep healing whilst living in a modern day society. You'll be equipped with knowledge to make profound mind-body shifts that utilize ancient wisdom and will facilitate your healing once and for all. Inspired by Dr. Sue's chronic illness journey and all the real and raw pearls she has learned along the way. Come as you are. It's never too late to start.
Hi, welcome back to the Modern Day Naturopath Podcast. This is Dr. Sue. Today we have the very talented Kim Russo with us today. I am so super excited. Kim Russo is an internationally renowned psychic medium, often called the happy medium. She has been featured on A&E's Paranormal State and Psychic Kids and hosted The Haunting of for 6 seasons, where she connected celebrities with the spirit world. Kim has spent decades helping people understand life after death, soul contracts, and how the unseen world influences our everyday lives. She is also the author of the best-selling book, The Happy Medium: Life Lessons from the Other Side. Known for blending spirituality with practical wisdom, Kim's work empowers people to trust their intuition, connect with the divine, and live with more clarity and purpose. So I love you guys to press pause, go over to Instagram, follow Kim. Her Instagram handle is Kim Russo Medium, KIMRUSSO Medium. You can visit her website, also save her website, kimthehappymedium.com. And I want to welcome you, Kim. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, thank you, Sue. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I want to tell you guys, you can get Kim's books, which are incredible. They're on Amazon, right? They're on Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Anywhere books are sold.
Anywhere books are sold. Happy Medium, and her second book, Your Soul's Purpose. And she just shared some exciting news with me that she has a third book coming out, and we're so excited for that because we can't wait to hear more from her. And actually, before I ask Kim how we met and talk to you guys about our introduction, I want to also share a bit about myself as a naturopath. So for Kim's audience, for those who have not been introduced to my work before, I am a naturopathic doctor. My name is Dr. Susan Cucchiara. My patients call me Dr. Sue. I went to a 4-year naturopathic medical school. I was formerly in advertising and marketing in New York City, and I decided to take a huge leap of faith and changed into holistic nutrition, which then led me into naturopathic medicine. I traveled all the way from New York to Arizona to go to naturopathic medical school, graduated 2015, was seeing patients in Manhattan for at least 5 years, doing in-person and virtual, and then moved to California around 2020 and have been doing virtual consults since. And I have now this huge desire to be back in New York more. So I'm probably going to be back in Manhattan a bit more, but I do offer virtual consults as well as the doctor in my practice. We have a wonderful other doctor. She's a naturopath like myself, but she's also an acupuncturist, and she has a master's in Chinese medicine. So she really helps to incorporate those Chinese medicine principles into my patients' care. And we also have Christina, a health coach, who helps keep our patients accountable, keep them eating clean, keeping them on our program and protocols we need for them to get better. So if you want to learn more about my work, you can watch the podcast. It's Modern Day Naturopath Podcast, and you can visit my Instagram at dr.susanc. Kim, can you tell the audience a little bit about how we met? I know we had met, oh my God, probably 10 years, more than that, right? Would you say
More
10?
than that. More than that. I lost track because I consider you a very good friend
You
at
know?
this point. But we met through a mutual friend. I was having a lot of digestive issues, and a friend of mine said that she met this incredible woman, and she helped her with all of her aches and pains and illnesses, and that I must meet you. And I remember we hit it off immediately when I spoke to you. And we did a barter. I think we had both agreed you wanted my services, and I was eager to see how you could help me. And you did. You actually did help me. And I just have to say, sometimes I'm not the best patient. So I've had to call you throughout the years for a lot of other help, not keeping up with my digestive health with this crazy uh, chemicals that are, bombarding us. But that being said, you're always, up on the latest technology, the latest supplements. So, you're still my go-to, but we're friends as well. We have a lot of the same background, the way we were raised, Italian culture. So,
From Long Island. I grew up in Long Island.
that's right. That's right. And now we're sort of
Now we're on,
scattered.
yes, on other side of the coast, but still together. And I remember, so what's funny is that Christina, who is now our current health coach in our practice, so I met Christina through a friend of mine, and Christina came as a patient, and she shared this so I could share information. She had PCOS. She had her doctor her doctor said, "Oh, you're not, this is, they say it's nothing really we could do with it, blah, blah, blah." And then she decided to see me, and she went back to the doctor after we did naturopathic work, and she had no cysts left, and the doctor was shocked. And so that really inspired her to then say, "Hey, I want to get into this." And at that time, that's how she said, "You should meet my friends Kim Russo." And that's how I said, "Oh my God," I looked into all of your work. I said, "She's incredible." And I remember during our barter, because it made sense for us, if I wanted her services and she wanted mine, let's do a swap. And I remember, I'll never forget, I believe I was at your house, and you literally listed, you knew nothing about me, and you listed the names of my family members. And at that point,
Are they living family members?
yeah, they were actually living. You actually named living family members, and it blew my mind. I knew at that moment, I'm like, "She's the real deal." She
That does come up a lot. That's a thing in my readings when spirit loves to prove that it's real. That's part of the gift. But I don't remember, of course, because it comes through me. Uh so I never remember people's readings. But yeah,
I
we haven't talked about that. We
I
haven't talked about that in years.
I know,
So
I just remembered it now because I actually thought to myself, when was the last time I actually had, like, one of those sit-down readings? And I remember being in your house, and at that moment, and just like you said, I think sometimes we need to, like you said, get a sign to know, okay, this is maybe where I'm supposed to be at this moment, right? When you validated a name, it was, I mean, I'm like, how would she ever know something like that? So we bonded after that, and we've been able to support each other as friends and as colleagues, and people have found each other. We're happy to have helped refer people to each other through the years, right?
yes.
Because it's very hard to trust people. And even in that psychic space, a lot of people, and I do want to get into a little bit of this, they have had bad experiences. They hear the name, the word psychic, and, sometimes it doesn't bring the best feeling to them. They may feel it's against their religion. They may have had different experience that made them feel like this is definitely not for me. But I feel like it resonated with me, and I grew up Catholic Italian, right? So, as strict as you can get, but through the years, as my own spirituality developed, I personally, in my, excuse me, my experience, I almost felt like, a lot of these teachings would maybe say, don't talk to people who have these intuitive gifts. I looked at it as, if this person is of light, they are maybe brought from God to help us on our path here to connect with our loved ones. So, would you
Yeah,
agree with that?
there's good and bad in everything, and that is the truth. I will always, like you, use your intuition. If it resonates, if the person, I listen for keywords of what the person speaks about. The minute they start talking about lighting candles, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, but when they start to say, you have a curse on you, then, steer clear of the scammers. And I actually did an episode on the Dr. Oz show about this, where I went into Manhattan and I sort of went undercover, because it is people like that that give really the legitimate ones with the good intentions, the gifts from the right place that help to heal people. It gives us a bad name. And So I was not opposed to exposing these scammers. They are out there, they do exist. And I do feel that if you really go based on someone you trust and you get a recommendation, that is the way to go. Always go based on someone's recommendation or your own gut instincts. So if you so many people see me, they've watched me on television, and they could relate to me through the screen, and they say, "Gee, there's just something about your energy that makes me feel that you're the real deal." And I appreciate when people say that to me. And I will always just be me. But yes, you have to be careful. But it's in every occupation. I really do believe that there's good and bad in everything.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because exactly, I've heard so many people. I mean, you even get people stopping you on the street. I'll never forget. I had a really bad experience. I got stopped on the street in Manhattan, and somebody said, "I know, X, you're suffering, or you're," and I was suffering very badly at that time. I had Lyme disease. I didn't even know I had it. I was really in poor shape, and stopping me on the street and putting all these things into my head actually manipulated me to buy stuff from him. I actually feel ashamed of the experience, but also I feel like I learned from that experience that I didn't trust my gut. I knew it's almost like you could just feel someone's energy if someone's having a bad day, and they knew the right things to say to me. And
Right. Well, when people lead with fear, and I think we're
yeah,
going to talk a lot about that,
yeah,
that's a red flag right there. When they lead with love and hope, that's different. But as soon as people lead with fear, you really need to pay attention in that moment, because listen, we have enough of the world trying to instill fear into us every which way we turn. And when someone, just for example, I think anyone walking down the street to some degree is going through some kind of
right,
adversity, something, and so and sometimes they might even have that little bit of a gift to see, oh wow, that person looks like she's hurting. Sometimes it shows on our face. That's why I don't do cold readings. Done I'm an evidential medium, just for your audience who doesn't know what that is. I've been tested under conditions where I'm not in the same room with the person. I haven't even heard the voice of the person, where they will be on the other end of the phone. And the way they tested us was those phones where you hit the number and you hear a beep. That's the only way the person's on the other end of the phone. And then you go on with the reading. You don't get any feedback. They don't say yes, they don't say no, you don't hear their voice. You just give a reading. You don't get their name, you get nothing. It's just energy. You're reading the energy on the other side of the phone. So, I'm very in tune to the way people speak, and I don't mean when I do readings. I'm talking about in my everyday life. I'm very in tune to certain words people say, such as, well, with my luck, that that or nothing good ever happens for me. I'm never gonna win. I might as well not enroll in this sweepstakes because I don't win anything. Just that type of thought process is right then and there. They're emitting a negative frequency about themselves. So I'm very in tune to that. That's like the nails on the chalkboard for me. When people say things like that, because they don't realize how much that's creating their reality, the way they thoughts emanate out as energy, so the
right.
universe picks up on that.
You
uh,
tell them in a reading when you're feeling they're being really negative, you're obviously calling them out so that they can try to fix these patterns, right? And obviously in your way. But when you hear those type of things from them, in a reading, or you feel that type of energy, how do you kind of reframe it for them, bring them back some hope? Because I know hope was something we talked about when we were just chatting last week about when you said, right, if you have hope, you have nothing. So when you hear people's patterns and they're so negative, and you said it's like almost like that energy of right out like nails on a chalkboard. How do you kind of help people reframe it when they've had so many bad experiences that they're so almost jaded and it's like hard to get out of their own way?
right, which is a lot of people walking around. Well, number one, I do not judge. I try to see how that thought process came to be. And it's most likely a program from a child where if the parents had a lot of fears, or if the parents were not around and they have abandonment issues, it really goes back to that inner child a lot of the times. And then I wrote a lot about this in my book, my both books, about the programming and how programming is all around us. If we rely on external sources to tell us how we should feel, right then, we are just behind the eight ball. And that's what people do tend to do. They tend to trust other people's opinions more than what they're feeling inside. And what I've come to notice is we are now at the tipping point where a lot of people, I believe the world is split right now, the consciousness. A lot of people are following external sources, believing everything they hear in the media, believing their friends, believing their groups. And then there's the other groups that are like, no, that doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't resonate with me. So people are waking up in droves out of the programming, the hive mind, which is pretty much we learned in schools, we learned from the media, the news outlets, social media. We want to keep up with the Joneses, we want to be like everyone else. But that's changing, but you still have a great amount of people that are living in the programming and the hive mind, where they follow the crowd, like, oh well, if they're doing it, it must be the right thing.
Right.
So um what I would do for a client, a friend, or whoever it may be is I would really just ask people to stop, sit, and take a survey within themselves. There is something in my book, Your Soul Purpose, where there is a chapter like this. And, I say in the book, nobody's grading you, nobody's judging you. These answers are just for you to see you, because we are so much on autopilot for the most part, like robotic, that we forget that we are allowed to feel. And then when we try to get in touch with these feelings, we don't know, are those my feelings, or am I picking up on the world, and or my girlfriend who dumps on me every day, or you have to really try to take inner inventory. People don't do that really, and I'm sure you see that in your work as well. When they come to you with illnesses, you have to sort of start from the beginning, because the body does keep the score, and there is a book called
Book, yeah, that psychologist.
What Score. And the mind filters, everything filters through the mind, then it lands in the body. So we have to be very careful, just like what we feed the body food. Thoughts are energy, and it's what we feed our nervous system.
Absolutely. And that brings me to, when you said that, it brings to, why would a naturopath have a psychic medium on her podcast? Right? I feel like a lot of the things that we feel align, because the things you just said, if someone has, this negative patterning, nothing ever good happens to me, stuck in a cycle. And again, it's not, we don't judge you, because I've gone through this myself most of my
Yeah.
life, chronic illness and trauma. It's, you want to get out of it, and then sometimes you find yourself back in that hole, and then you try to dig yourself up again and you go backwards. However, the one thing that I feel is very similar between Kim's work and I is that we're honoring the body, we're honoring the mind, right? The spirit, and we understand there is a connection between all of them.
Oh
When
yeah.
you go to the conventional doctor, you have a problem with your lung, you're at the pulmonologist, then they referred there, then you the cardiologist, and there's a doctor for every organ system. But with Kim's work and my work, we see the person as a whole. How does everything influence everything else? And I think it's easy for us to, poo poo that when we're going through something, because that's hard work. It's really hard work.
Yeah.
I've had patients
Shadow work.
Yeah, you can hear their resistance. And I have patients, even for years, where I come into like a dilemma with myself because I never want to make a patient feel like they're abandoned. And I say, okay, I'm giving up on you because you're not doing these changes. However, there's a part of it, if you don't do the changes, we're right, you're not getting better. How do we continue to support you and keep reminding you? Because the thing that seems to be their obstacle to cure is their resistance to going into that darker stuff, and whether that be trauma, adulthood, childhood, their own, anything that has happened in their life that has caused, whether it's grief, sometimes they just don't, when they don't want to talk about it, or they're very close to that being a potential reason that they're still suffering, and I see the resistance, it even more validates that. So all I can do for those people is what they say, hold space. You keep reminding, I kindly remind, oh, so, what did you do to support your mental health? What did you do to support right? How did you support your spiritual health? So would you agree that how we both view the body is very similar, right? Using our intuition, right? We're doing naturopathic medicine, right? So we're listening to cues from our body. Most people who see a naturopath, they instinctually know something is wrong with that. They've listened to their gut. 4,000 doctors told them they're fine. The
Right.
typical,
Oh, yes. I absolutely agree.
right?
Well, the intuition is my specialty is kind of like that text message you receive. And when you get those rapid fire text messages, that's when you go into some kind of health crisis. It is the body telling you something's not right, and then you have to really, again, there's that inventory again. What Usually, I'll give you an example. um when somebody has stomach issues, a lot of the times, first of all, spirit taught me all of this throughout all the readings I've done throughout all the years. I didn't read this in any books, although it might be in books, but spirit has taught me so much about, because I am a medical intuitive.
Yeah,
That
thank you for clarifying too that you're very good at scanning the body.
That well, yeah, psychically scanning the body, and then spirit stops me, and I'll see dark spots, or I'll see, like pipes with, like, there's, some kinda clog where, there's some darker spot in that area. That means that's what we have to pay attention to, because it's sort of like, when you throw darts and
Mhm.
then stick into the body. But, for example, the stomach issues is, what can't you stomach in your life, right?
Well, what
It
can't you digest, right? Or what can't you
Right. And that's a phrase too that people use, like, "I just can't digest that." And so you have to sort of see, it is mind, body, spirit. What what is off balance in your emotions? What are you suppressing? What are you not saying? Right? So when you have a thyroid issue, a lot of the times, as a matter of fact, I will share with your audience something that happened to me, which I found incredibly eye-opening.
Mm,
So a lot of my fans and my audience knows that for a very long time I stopped doing private readings
yes.
because I was on the road quite a bit. I was filming a couple of TV shows, and I was doing big live events around the country. I just didn't have the time, and it's very taxing. It takes a lot of energy. So I stopped doing them completely, and I developed a nodule on my thyroid. And during meditation one day, well, first of all, you were helping me and you were giving me a lot of remedies. But in my meditation, my my spirit guides came to me, and they said, they showed me my throat being atrophied, like stuck, like barnacles are growing because it's not being used. My voice was not being used for the purpose of why I came to this planet. So I was doing the work, but I was not doing the one on one, which is very satisfying. But I was writing books, I was filming shows, but I really stepped away from the mission of what really connects me to people was the private readings. And I said, "Wow." I said, "Oh boy, I never put that together." And I made a deal. I couldn't go back to the schedule that I was doing. I had a 5-year waiting list for the private readings. I
5-year waiting list?
couldn't do it.
Oh my god.
Um,
Wow.
so I made a deal. I said, "Okay, I will go back to doing private readings because I need to exercise this voice chakra, my throat chakra. It was getting stagnant, and
Wow.
it was like, and I decided to do work 2 days a week doing readings. And I didn't overwhelm myself, and I'm still doing that to this day, by the way, because the fact that they told me that, boy, did that resonate. And it wasn't my thought. It was I was shocked when I heard it.
Yeah,
I
because
was
'cause you're
like,
thinking if I stop, this is better for me because I'm burning myself out, but then you realize that I'm creating, right? Because their throat chakra, that's where our thyroid is, right? That she needed to speak,
"Yes,
communicate. So you were doing your work and books and teaching in classes, which Kim does all the time, but there was something missing. So what I love about this is that you were able to do it at your capacity
well,
without
yeah,
making yourself sicker, but also able to help people at the scale that you are able to help, and they can go on a
correct,
wait for a year if they need to, if you're seeing 2 times a week. Because what good is Kim Russo if she's doing 5,000 readings a week and she's not well? You want her to be connected, you want her to feel well, you want her to feel well physically, mentally. I love
thank
that. But now yeah, and I actually wanted to mention that to you guys. So if you did want a private reading with Kim, you can go to her website, kimthehappymedium.com. You can go email, and then you will put your phone number in and you'll say you are on Dr. Sue's podcast, and she will add you to her list and she will get back to you about that. And also one other thing I forgot to mention, she does have really amazing classes that she does teach. Sometimes she does virtual events or in-person events. I've seen you doing some in salt caves in Long Island over the last year, which is
yeah.
amazing. So you can also keep up with her Instagram page, her website to keep uh, knowing all of the new events that she's been doing. But I'm so happy you shared that because you're basically honoring yourself while
Oh, yeah.
still doing what you would say in your book, your soul's purpose. Because you
Right,
did
right.
from it. There is something right, but it was just at the capacity you were doing it, it wasn't good for you. But now you found your
Correct,
sweet spot
correct.
almost.
Because this is supply and demand, and I learned that I wanna help the world, but I'm only one person. Probably same like you,
In a
Susan,
situation
I know.
like myself, yeah.
Right. And that's to everyone out there. You know, we are only human, and yes, we all have gifts of some sort that we came into this world with. But when it comes to, and the body does speak, and believe me, my thyroid started, really showing signs of atrophy, in the sense that I was not honoring spirit the way I started and the way that I probably should, even if so just for a little bit. And it makes me feel connected again, and it brings me so much joy. I'm happy I agreed to do it. I didn't even think of just going at my own pace. But when they pointed that out to me, and then another thing, and this is an just occupational hazard, is a lot of people's grief sort of falls on me. Not just me, mediums in general, or psychiatrists, psychologists, not exclusive to mediums, but when we have the compassion we have for others, which we do, and we that's why we do what we do. We cannot. There's no switch to just turn off our feelings. They're mostly the people that came to me lost children, and that's my worst subject. It's just, I'm a mom, so it's horrifying to me.
Alright.
And just, you think, I can stay really calm during the reading, and they would never be the wiser. but their pain is absorbed into my body. And when they leave, I could be thinking about them up until a month later, or maybe I just push it down somewhere. So that is something that people do have to really take into consideration, is how much, when you are ill, how much is yours and how much is not yours. So I started to, I do believe that's where my digestive stuff was happening, was, um, is like a lot of my liver, which has started getting congested because there's just so much heaviness coming at me. It's not so much what I'm eating. Believe me when I tell you,
Yeah,
because I
you always wanna find a physical reason. It must be that food, but it might be the thing that you're doing, and I think a lot of us too, we get rigid in our belief systems. Like, here's an example. I have a friend, I'm so inspired by her. She's a naturopath, she's brilliant. She started this practice in Arizona, and then she decided, I don't really think I wanna do this anymore. So now she lives off the grid, has 2 babies, has this, like, offsite. She makes these little, places, like a little campground for people who have chronic illness, who wanna just get off the grid and unplug EMF, and she's a pig in shit. She's like, "I had to use," like, I think we had to go to naturopathic school, so we had to become a naturopath, and I remember
Right.
even talking to my mentor, Dr. Sensinig, about this once, because I said to him, "Same thing about with you. I take on a lot of people. We have empathy. That's why as a medium, you have to have some sort of empathy for
Get it.
humans, and actually too much we end up having, for people, and what ends up happening is we take on a lot of that, and that's why a lot of us say we have to make sure we protect our energy. We have to cleanse our energy, whether it be with crystals or with your own spirituality practice of doing protection prayers or clearing. But we're so compassionate to them that we end up having this energetic exchange, and it can perpetuate, right, some of our own stuff. So I'm not going to lie and say, when I have a patient and they start telling me about their childhood trauma, I start thinking about mine, right?
Yeah.
And so I have that same as you. What is the sweet spot of being able to still help people at some capacity? And that's why personally, and I never really shared, beside I'm only one person and I can only take on so many people because it's just not possible. That's why I brought on Dr. Sparks, because she's a naturopathic colleague friend of mine. I graduated with her. I saw how she treated patients. She worked in my mentor's office. I knew she knew all the principles of vitalistic naturopathic medicine. And I feel at ease knowing that if I'm whether not well one day, or I don't feel that I'm actually a good fit, because there's no ego for me when it comes to getting somebody better. Like, if someone says, "Hey, you got me up to this 70% line and I'm going to go to someone else," I'm like, "Great. I don't want to continue taking on a patient, or even take on a patient to begin with, if I don't feel like I might have the right tools. Maybe someone else has the right tools." So I kind of brought on somebody, because there's so many people coming, with all of these chronic health issues. Because, like you said before, we're being inundated with chemicals, we're being inundated with bad news and horrifying things in the media, that people just, they're sick now. They've gone to a million doctors. So we have to be able to find a way. How can I still help them? Right. And also, through just listening to this, something that we said in this podcast could have resonated with someone, and they may have not needed that one-on-one appointment with either one of us.
Right, right. Well, I think really, to your point, it's where there's a will, there's a way. You
Right.
don't have to abandon ship altogether. That's what I learned.
Right.
Where you just have to find the balance. That's why I'm called the happy medium, by the way.
I love
No,
that. It's so cute and it's spot on, right?
yeah, it's really the reason, because I do believe anything in excess is not healthy, but some people are just all or nothing, but there's always a way to find a balance, within it, and I think that's actually what the world is going through right now. It doesn't look good because we're in the eye of the storm, and I always see it. My guides show it to me like the Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy was, going through the hurricane and the houses were flying all around her, and the monkeys. That's where we are now. We have all the monkeys flying at us, all the houses and everything else. But when all the chaos settles, and it will, because energy moves and energy is always constant and nothing stays the same, we will find ourselves in that calm space. But we don't have to wait till the monkeys or the houses settle down. We can do that in the eye of the storm. I've learned we can find our own center. And it's perfect example is what you just told me about your friend. She's helping other people to heal,
Mm-hmm.
right? So she's still a doctor, but so she's still offering services, but in a different capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, it's like teaching the man how to fish instead of just giving him a fish.
Exactly, and I will say one thing I wanted before I forget. It's funny because she did that for a while, and then she's like, "I think I'm done with this," and now she's like, "I'm gonna use my medicine to support like, help my family." Like, that's what I'm okay with knowing that I have 2 little boys or, and I'm helping them, right? I am now helping them with what I learned as a naturopathic doctor. So I think, she used it and then she's like, "Oh, now I'm going to use it here." So it's like the point is like we don't always like we go to school for this one thing and we think we have to do it in that way or we can get creative. We don't have to stay in a cycle of something we hate or we're not enjoying because we decided to make a commitment there. I think it's like
And
flexible.
that's the the reason we're on this planet is to create, not
Right.
just create children, but we are natural born creators. The wheel doesn't turn without us. So we create. We're always getting inspired, and that's where the word comes from is in spirit, inspired.
Oh,
So
I love that. I actually never put it together like
yeah,
that.
when you're in spirit, you get inspired, and that's when the downloads come for the new ideas, the new inventions. How can I make this world better? How can I contribute in my own way? And when we're helping other people, it doesn't really matter if the flying monkeys are around us because we're in our own lane. We have a focus, we have a mission, and if we know we're doing good every day to help others or to make this world a better place to some degree. I don't care if you volunteer in a animal shelter. There's always people and animals that need help somewhere. A hospice, a hospital, or of course, it's not everybody has reasons why they can't do certain things, but there's something you can do. And to stay grounded in the midst of all this is so important. For example, there are so many people now who cannot sleep. Now, I don't have to tell you this. They're not sleeping. Therefore, their nerves are frazzled. They're like fried.
Right.
They have no patience. It's a vicious cycle, right? When you don't sleep, you start to have anxiety. Your immune system goes low, right? It's just such a vicious cycle. And people are forgetting to breathe. Sometimes I find myself
Yeah.
not not exhaling.
Yeah. Yeah. Or literally for a minute will go by and you're like, "Oh shit, I don't even think I took a breath," because you're like holding your breath in fear. It's the
Correct.
fear, especially, like, with everywhere you turn, it's like, now people are getting sicker on top of now they're hearing horrible things all over the place, so we're just almost frozen and paralyzed with this fear, which I would love you to talk more about too, because I know you're very big on fear and how that can significantly negatively impact your life when we live in fear. But, yeah, I wanted you to
Oh,
also touch
yes.
on you.
Well, the fear is really an illusion. It's an illusion because the way that the programs, and I speak about programs because it's I don't watch the news. I won't. And it, it's becoming so redundant at this point. It seems to me, and I'm sure your audience will agree, is that there's always some type of manufactured event. Now, when I say manufactured, I'm not saying everything's manufactured, but the things that are really bad that happens, they want to perpetuate that. They want to just keep throwing it out there and showing it, keeping the masses at a low frequency. It's actually happens to be that way on purpose. Um, but I think it's just like anything else. What if you know, like even for doom scrolling on the internet, it depends on your algorithm, but if you click on one video that's not the best, you may get, 50 other videos that are similar, that are kind of gearing towards the same fear. So, you could change your algorithm. Go look at the puppies. And that's not to say put your head in the sand, but you do have a choice what you dabble in. You literally have a choice where you want to keep your focus. And that's why I spoke about what I did earlier about staying creative. How can you leave this world with some type of legacy where listen, I've read so many of your testimonials. I just see them. I see them on Instagram. You changed my life, Dr. Sue. Uh, who's better than that? You can, sleep at night knowing you've changed people's lives for the better, and they can sleep at night and they're healthy again. So we're moving out of the old consciousness anyway. That's happening whether, you know, the powers that be want it or not. It's already happening. So many people uh, are looking for holistic doctors. So many, Western medicine doctors are leaving. It doesn't matter how many loans they have, they're leaving because, and I know that a lot of them personally, I read for a lot of them, and they just don't have the heart to practice the type of medicine that's expected of them.
Right, the
They
standard
don't,
care, right, that's the
yeah, they don't believe in a lot of what is being forced upon them to tell the public, what to give the public. So these people got into medicine to begin with to help, not to harm, most of them anyway. And that I could say makes the best sense, right?
yeah.
So getting back, I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, is lead with love, not with fear. Because fear is false expectations appearing real. FEAR. False expectations appearing real. Half the things we fear don't ever happen.
I
And I
love it too. This is the third thing today you said that I know, the inspired in spirit. Now you
yeah,
said, so I'm
false expectations appearing real. That's not always the case. But I do believe that there's two things happening right now that most people fear, and that's, losing their freedom and losing their life or the lives of their loved ones. And I believe if, we really want to go, we can go into some kind of deep discussion. I don't think we have that kind of time, but I did write a lot about this in my books as far as soul contracts. We all came here to have a certain mission and to have certain things happen in our lives, but we can choose, like the great masters that walk this planet like Jesus. He was teaching us how to overcome the world. And he uses those quotes too. He overcame the world. What does that mean? He overcame fear. What does that mean? Ego. Ego is synonymous with fear. Because where there's love, there should not be ego. Faith and fear cannot coexist in the same sentence. You can't have faith and fear. You either have one or the other. Some people disagree with that and say, well, I have faith sometimes. Well, I think if we practice faith that there's a higher power that is pulling all the strings and is pulling for humanity. This is what we forget. The higher power is pulling for humanity and the survival of humanity. So every time we are in that fight or flight, which I'm sure you deal with that on a daily basis in your practice, we have to remember there's things happening behind the scenes with the higher powers that are pulling for humanity that we don't see.
Right.
So that's where that other phrase comes in. It's not over till it's over.
Right, right, and that's why all these people asking when we put up a box on our Instagram saying, "What do you guys wanna hear about?" A lot of people were asking, "The world is crazy. Are we gonna make it? Should I not have kids in this world? Are we going to be okay?" And it basically comes back to what you just said, right? There has to be some faith that we're going to be okay, and, I would really interested to hear what you think about if you believe in a soul contract, could we also believe that if the child's meant to be there, the child's meant to be there, right? So do you believe in
I,
someone
wa-
making that free will choice? Like I don't want to have a kid because I'm watching what's going on in our world, which makes sense logically. But then if that child is really supposed to come in, they're going to come in, right? Like there's
I'm glad you asked me that because the children that are being born now are wired differently. Their DNA is different for a fact. They are not wired with the same outdated, archaic mindset that we grew up with, which was only programming. That's all it is. They're updated versions of the new consciousness, and the new consciousness is born into unity, not division. Okay. Now, that's why a lot of the younger generation that is here now, they're here now, they are not, I've said this before many times, they're not here to follow in our footsteps, such as, oh, if you want to be successful, you have to start from the bottom, you have to work up. They're coming in with ideas that will, like with technology, they're not here to work harder. They're here to work smarter. All right. They're not of the same mindset that talk about a generation gap. Now, the souls that are being born now are the highest vibrational souls. They would not decide to come here if they didn't have the equipment and the consciousness to be in the new world. This is a new world coming up. um, there are going to be the people that stay in the fear and in the program mind, and they're not really going to make it to the new consciousness, which is beautiful. And people don't believe it because remember what I said, the flying monkeys are right around us right now. But once that settles and once all that noise goes away, when we don't feed it our energy, so we
right.
have to learn ways to channel our energy into productive things, such as your friend. How can I help humanity? That's the most productive thing. And how can I stay centered,
While I do
ground?
so, right?
What, hun?
While I do so, right? Like how do I stay centered while I do that?
While I'm in the middle of the
I
storm with everyone else. First of all, know that you're never alone. None of us are ever alone. And that's what gets me through. We all have guides. We all our soul contracts. We would never have come here knowing we're all just going to die. We came here to be part of the shift in consciousness at the greatest time in history, which is the age of Aquarius that we just entered into, which is that famous song. It's all about unity. It's all about we, not me. And we are in that. So again, they want to keep the structure the way it was because, you know, we can work for the machine instead of for ourselves. So many people are leaving their 9 to 5s and they're finding what makes their own soul sing. And like I said, without us, the everyday human, the wheel doesn't spin. We make the world spin. We make the wheels spin for humanity. But now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we're doing things differently. People are finding alternative foods. They're growing their own food. They're looking for farmland. They're going to alternative doctors that use herbs from God's green earth. Everything has been given to us on this planet to heal. There's not an herb out there that won't heal what a doctor's pill will. And that doesn't even heal. That just keeps the symptoms at bay for the moment, but it never gets to the root cure, which is what your work does. You guys get to the root. And I tell everybody about your type of work, and you, of course. So just to wrap this up and to really put a nice bow on it, um, it's a choice. It's an everyday, every minute choice. When I don't know what to do because there's chaos, I create. I'll write another book. I'll journal. I'll go outside and touch them. I have a beautiful tree in my backyard, and I swear this tree is ancient and it has this wisdom. And I just walk around it and I just feel safe. And that's my thing. Everybody has a different way they do things. Some people, you know, stay connected to some type of community. Don't try and go at this alone, because we can get very wrapped up in our own thoughts, and they can become very dark. It's always nice to know, oh wow, if something happens to me, I have my friend so and so, or my neighbor so and so, or my church group, or whatever. I do recommend trying to find like-minded people, even if it's a spiritual group, whatever, you know, a hobby, something where people are on page. Yeah, that's important, to stay connected to to humanity, to other people. So a lot of people wanna hide under the covers right now. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, so what Kim is saying, for all of you who asked us, like, will we make it? Are we going to be here? She's saying we wouldn't be here if we weren't supposed to be here,
No,
right?
we chose to come here during this time. During this time in humanity,
Right.
we we chose to come here, and we all brought our gifts with us. So, this is not the time to, worry about how am I gonna make a living, because a lot of people have just stepped out in faith and they can't even do their job again with that 9 to 5. Their bodies won't let them. It's right, it's like eating the same food every day. It's like, oh, you your body won't let you anymore. So that's the upgrade of frequency, and we're all getting upgraded. And believe it or not, again, I could go on and on and on, but what's helping us upgrade is the rays of the sun. The sun is not the same sun. So the sun is more from the central sun. We're getting downloads from the sun. The trees know how to bloom every year, and the flowers blossom from the codes of the sun. And so it is with us. We are no different. So we're upgrading. We're getting upgraded now from what's actually happening with the frequencies of the planet. So the planet's raising and it's bringing us with it. And that's where we're seeing all the darkness. Like when you lift roots up, you see all the worms under it. Like, oh, I didn't know that was under there, because I just saw pretty flowers. But
Right.
that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing all the gunk under the surface coming, rising up, and we're gonna till the soil. We're gonna turn it over, and we're gonna all work together. And believe it or not, like-minded people are finding each other like
Right.
magnets.
Mhm.
It's synchronicity. It's how I met you. It's how people are meeting people every which way. I hear all these stories and I love them. And if you look for the miracles every day, instead of, focusing on the fear, the miracles are there just as much.
Yeah, and that's so comforting, and this is why I have such a deep bond with you, and also your what you say resonates so much, because you have a sense. This energy from you is very comforting, it's very calming. It makes people feel like, okay, things are going to be okay, no matter how dark it seems right now, no matter how bad in the trenches I am. There's sometimes it doesn't feel like there's answers. Patients will say, why is this happening to me? Or I could even say that, right? I share little bits here and there, but I suffer with daily migraines and headaches every single day. And I ask, well, I'm doing God's work. Why is this not happening? And you start to question God, or well, I don't say you, but I'll start to, why, you'll start to feel, am I being abandoned? But then but then on the other side of it, like you said, I can either choose to go into that fear, which is going to keep perpetuating, right? It on and on and on, or I can stop and say, okay, I could see the pattern I'm going down. I can do what you said, take inventory. I'm doing that, martyr stuff. I'm doing the victim. Am I a victim again? Right? Because if I was, right, I can say I'm a survivor, but I went through childhood abuse, right? So going through that and feeling like I was a victim, now it's like being an adult and that self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, oh, or, oh, see, I knew this was going to happen to me again. It's just like that same algorithm thing on Instagram. Now you're getting all the same things happening over and over again. And you always help, even just in our friendship, you always help even me bring things back to, okay, maybe when I'm going through this, time again, instead of it that I'm going backwards, I'm actually getting even deeper and more deep rooted into things that I didn't want to look at 5 years ago, or I didn't know that I needed to get into 10 years ago. So I just want to thank you for you giving so many people hope and faith that we're going to
Thank
be
you.
okay. Because just like you said before about psychic mediums, and when you get those people that come to you from fear, it jades your experience, but you've always been a sense of light. And what I've loved is you've always turned, even if you did, let's just say you were doing medical intuitive style and you were scanning their body, if you saw something, you don't speak from fear. You tell them from a place of empowerment, hey, this is maybe something you want to get looked at. Like, let's,
Mhm.
right? There's never been a doomsday reading from Kim Russo that I've ever heard from my friends that gone to you, family members, myself. And so I think it's nice if you do choose to talk to some type of medium or spiritual, right? Any person in that space, is that you feel good and empowered coming out of it, and not like you got, kick the shit out of when you're done of, because you went to one of these people who's making you feel like the world is coming down. And I really don't feel there's any productive information that comes out of that, because it just makes us feel more hopeless. So I did want to
Well,
say thank you for that.
that means so much to me. It really does. And thank you for saying that. I there's always hope. I- if you don't have hope, that's just an illusion, okay? And it's a program. So I just want to help people come out of the program of, if you're told something X amount of times, you're going to start to believe it. But when you go within and you connect to the divine within yourself, that's how you know, wow, no matter what happens, first of all, there is no death, and that's a medium speaking. There's only transformation. But there is no boogeyman under the bed. And I do that in my haunting of series, where people were certain that they were haunted until I connected back to what was really haunting them, sort of projected outwardly into their space. So there's always a reason. And I don't want to sound like a Pollyanna, honestly, because if anybody really knows Kim Russo, I speak I speak truth with love and compassion, but I do not sugarcoat, because sometimes you have to hear the honest truth, and I deliver that again with love and compassion. But the best breakthroughs I've ever seen was when the people first had to break down. So the breakdown always equals a breakthrough. And I usually will probably get the people coming to me right before the breakthrough. And you probably do too. That's another thing we have in common.
Yeah.
People that come to see me, often parents that lost children, their disclaimer will be, I would never normally do see someone like you, but I'm desperate. And I understand that. And that goes back to the religious
Yeah.
stigma and the
Yeah.
belief systems, and the charlatans out there. But there's so many modalities now, Sue, right? Like there's sound healing, there's sound baths, there's aura healings. There's just so many people with so many different gifts that it's incredible. You've even recommended quite a few people to me that I'm so grateful for, such as the chiropractor that you told me to go to. She's extremely gifted in her method, and
Right.
and in my opinion, it's a lot of the way they believe. It's, treat the body it's sacred. The body, mind, and spirit is sacred. And so we are all going to find the energy that matches our own frequencies. So that's what the key for manifestation anyway. But you've opened my eyes to so many different types of practitioners that I didn't even know existed, holistic practitioners.
Yeah, because you go it's I'm happy you said that because I've literally had so many different health issues and I've literally been through I mean, I can't even name the amount of people that I've met and almost like I got a crash course. My naturopath said to me one day, she's like, instead of looking at it as negative for all the money you've spent, right? Because people will say to me, I spent a lot of money because naturopaths are expensive. I don't know if I can do this. Well, I'm also a patient and I've spent a lot of money too. So I understand that, but you'll never regret investing in your health ever. You're never going to be 90 and be like, oh, I wish I didn't invest in my health. Right. But with that, through through the years, she said, instead of looking at it as I spent so much money on my health and I saw all these people, look at it as continuing education, right? Like every year you have to meet continuing education credits for your medical license, right? And I have to listen to these, whether it be new doctors or this or that. It's like, just imagine it's just you adding to your knowledge base. And she's absolutely right. If you really look at it, it was a stepping stone to the next person, right? And it
Yeah.
also, I learned something, even if I've had practitioners that I've hated. Like, I mean, like, I'm just being honest. Like,
They weren't resonating with your vibration. Yeah.
I remember seeing someone and I was so called to see them and it was such a like they triggered me to a point. I was like, this is inappropriate. Everything that they would say was inappropriate. And I knew that in that moment, oh, I was angry. I wanted to go right to that victim where, see, I'm spending my money and no one can help me. And then I was like, oh, well, now I know exactly what I don't like. It's like dating. I definitely don't want this type of guy, right? Or I don't want this type of practitioner. And I've also gotten tested in those moments. Like I had to open just like again, we were chatting about this morning. I had to use my voice, which I didn't have as a little girl, and say, no, this is actually not working for me anymore. This is not serving me in my best, in my highest good from my intuition. And I walked away from it. Whereas maybe years before, if I hadn't gone through the work and gone through the darkness and the EMDR and all of those type of things, I would have maybe stayed with that practitioner for another year, got nowhere, wasted my money. But I actually was able to realize, hey, this is not a good fit for me. So I think another part of it is discerning you know, is my job a right fit for me? Is just like you. Can I do my job in a certain way? Is there something about my family dynamic that's not right for me? Is there something about my friendship dynamic that's not right for me? Am I living in a place that's not serving me? Am I doing hobbies? So like you said before, taking inventory and actually being able to tune into our intuition, which I
And
think that,
be honest with yourself, it's
yeah.
one of the things I want to stress more than anything that I am seeing, and especially with women, is we always put ourselves last to
Mhm.
be the peacemaker and to make the other person happy at our own expense. And, again, the Catholic religion taught, maybe a lot of other religions taught this too, because a lot of religions are about controlling. It's selfish. It's selfish not to give, but they expect you to give it all and then have
At your
nothing.
expense, right, at your
Right.
expense, even when
So
it's not for you.
I've seen that a lot, in my work, because I've come so far than just being a medium. Spirit has transformed my gift in so many ways, and I didn't plan it that way. It's just the people that come to see me. Spirit just gives this type of dialogue, and I've noticed that it's been all I really need to do. So many people just need permission to stand up for themselves or say no, and that's not okay. Or that may work for you, but it doesn't work for me. Or where could we find the balance? Where could this work for both of us? No, where it's not just so not equal. The scales are not equal. So that's important too. But there's just so many dynamics that we could get into that but I think we made our point as far as where the body, the mind, and the soul kind of all come together, because you can be eating the best diet in the world. But if your emotions and your thoughts on a daily basis are toxic, forget it. You'll come down with heart problems. You'll come down with anything. Like, nothing's off the table. How many times have you heard the healthiest person in the world who jogs miles every day died of a heart attack? Well, sometimes they have to see, did they have a heartbreak? Are they harboring something? Are they holding grief that they never let go of? Or did they not work through their grief? Are they harboring resentment? That's all stuff for the heart chakra. So, every organ connects to a certain emotion as well. And it stores, like the liver has a lot of anger and grief.
Mhm.
I with a lot of liver detoxes, when you detox
Yes,
that liver,
you
you can
get
get really cranky. And
my patient just told me that yesterday or Wednesday. She said I gave her, the homeopathic Unda numbers that I
yeah,
use. So I gave her the system of the liver. She was not able to handle them maybe a year ago, even though I'm very sensitive with my dosing. So I like a year later, I was like, I think you're ready now. She's out of her house of mold. She's so happy now with this new puppy. She likes her new job. She's in a better state. I said, let's do it now. And she's like, wow, I handled them so much better, but I'm anxious and like that stuff is coming up, like all of that anger emotions that our liver, right? Because a lot of homeopathy we use is energetic, and we can not only clear physical toxins, but we can help clear those energetic, right? And all of those
oh, yeah.
emotions.
Well, that's why listen, my language is all energy. That's what my mediumship is about. It's the language of energy, and I am fluent in the language of energy. So that's why I love what you do, because that's also energy. It's energy medicine. And it's fabulous. It's great. Energy is very real and very science based too. You know,
Of
science
course.
proved that energy can only change form, but it never ceases to exist.
And
So,
for you guys who don't know, because we actually didn't even address at the beginning, I am a naturopathic doctor, which is different than a medical doctor. So I did go to a 4-year medical school. However, the first 2 years were mostly all the basic sciences that a medical doctor would learn, but then we also learn all of these naturopathic modalities. And that's where we learn the philosophy of naturopathic medicine. How can we help heal versus suppress, right? We're not working on symptoms. We're working on why did this happen in the first place so I can fix it. With that said, we like to make sure we keep patients comfortable. So we palliate them as best as possible while working on the root cause. Because, even if someone has a thyroid condition that's making them anxious, let's just say, you could still work on their anxiety with natural herbs, but is the natural herbs to work on their anxiety curing them? No, that's helping them feel a little less anxious as we work on the cause. So we try to make sure the patient is as comfortable as possible, because as you're doing naturopathic medicine, it takes longer than a pharmaceutical because you're actually trying to help the body get back into balance and homeostasis first. I take this drug and I get this fix. That's just a band-aid, right? So doing naturopathic medicine over the years, you learn about a lot of different patients, a lot of different patterns. You see a lot of and I talked to Kim about this other day, you see a lot of patients who have more chronic illnesses, autoimmune, with a lot of childhood trauma or even adulthood trauma that they have suppressed, that they have either not wanted to talk about. I remember one of my mentors said, when a patient is about to heal when they say to you, I have something to tell you that I never told anyone, or
mhm.
I have a secret that I never told anyone. And that's when they're about to heal. Because, like we talked about before, the suppression and the body keeps the score, the fascia can hold on, the cells, their cellular memory. And one thing I want to address too is throughout the time, and we hear this a lot, and this could be from whether family members or friends, or, you know, they may say, "Oh, well, the past was in the past, and we just move on from that." While we all want to move on, our nervous system may not have moved on, right? So that those people may need processing. So that's where I love the, neural emotional technique, tapping, EFT, EMDR, to help them start processing this, because we would not want to not move on. Whereas some of us have a secondary gain, don't want to move on because maybe it's giving them some type of, right? It's helping them in some sort of way. And I did a whole post on Instagram about this. Some people just, maybe they get attention from a family member that they never would have gotten if they weren't sick. Or I always tell this example about a patient who had an eating disorder and she was always nauseous. It was perfect for her because she couldn't eat, which would keep her thin, which is what would feed her eating disorder. So some people have this, do they want to get well? And some of us say, yeah, we want to get well, but our nervous system remembers, as we were talking about. And it's not that we can just say, let's flip the switch and we're moved on. We have to process a lot, and it can be years in the making, right? As you keep unpeeling layers and layers. And like you talked about before, in someone's healing journey, they might just all of a sudden have like a dark night of the soul. Right. I know we're almost at our close, but I want to ask you what you think about that dark night of the soul. Do you feel like a lot of people you see go through that? Have you heard that term before?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I went through one. I think everybody goes through it at one point in their life. It's definitely what I spoke about earlier, the breakdown to break through. A lot of the times, the dark night of the soul is the breaking down of the ego, which is your identity. Who loves me? Who doesn't love me? Feeling included, feeling rejected. Everybody's dark night of the soul is sort of wrapped differently, but a lot of relationships, because there's so many narcissists out there these days. I'm reading a lot of people that are victims of narcissists, which is a horrible epidemic going on. But those dark night of the souls really do level the people up, because once they come through, I always like to say, a plant could never grow with light. It has to first be planted in the dark for it to grow, right? So it's as it is with us. We have to go through the darkness to get into the light. And that's the way you turn on the light anyway, out of the darkness. You just flip it. But in this way, you really do have to go. It's not a quick fix, because I had a child that went through a dark night of the soul, and I pointed out every single reason it was happening. I talked about a lot of predictions that wound up happening.
Mhm.
But then I realized it didn't matter what I told my child. They had to go through the process, because it's like if they wake up all at once, or they can hear my words, but they will never feel my words. They have to live it in order to come through it. Right? Because
Frustrating for you as a, right? It's
it
frustrating because
is.
you
It is.
help
I
a
know.
bear.
I know.
They're
I know.
suffering and they need to go through it.
That's right. I know. I can tell them all the right things. I can tell them even their future, what I see. It doesn't matter. They have to go through it in order to come through it. Go through to get through. And then hindsight is always 2020, always. So, like I said, I had a dark night of the soul, but I was fortunate. I was very young. I was 18. See, and from that early time, it developed how I discerned relationships.
Mhm.
And it helped me quite a bit. It did not leave me bitter. It left me more intuitive and wiser.
Mm.
Actually very grateful for my dark night of the soul. And there's always a person, if you want to talk about soul contracts, that will agree to play the villain in your dark night of the soul before you get here. They will agree to be the villain. in this lifetime. And you might have been the villain in their dark night in another lifetime. So you have to kind of honor the process, even though it's horrific. In the end, when you come out and you see, and hindsight is 2020, and it helps you grow, you honestly will honor the process. Not right away, but
Mhm.
I've seen, including myself, I've honored my dark nights. Listen, not to minimize what you've went through, but your pain has led you to your soul mission. Your dark night brought you to help millions of people, thousands of people. So you took one for the team, as they
Try
say.
not to cry. Thank you so
But
much.
that's a very brave soul, you see. The brave souls go through it, man. They just do. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, for sure. And even the people that can't get through their dark night, and some do, unfortunately, leave sooner than planned. Even at that, they're still learning from on the other side. There's still a lot of love and compassion, a lot of angels, spirit guides. Love is always around. We're never alone. I said that so many times. I cannot stress that enough. And the reason I know that, I'm a medium. I can see people's spirit guides. I could see your dead relatives. We are never alone. As much as we might feel alone, we are surrounded. I always say, if I were like a sketch artist and I can draw what I see, you wouldn't believe it. It's
Oh,
incredible. It's incredible.
that's so nice to know when we're feeling in that in such a dark space that just to know you can even I know, of course, we're supposed to lean on our faith and know that we're not alone, but the fact that you'll actually see, right? Whether it be, good angelic spirits, angels, loved ones around us, and just knowing that is comforting, because we feel very alone because when you're like you're saying, when you're in that dark night of the soul, it's almost like you're reaching out for help, but sometimes you're not reaching out for help, and
Yeah.
sometimes you're in the middle. And then people would always say, well, have you asked your spirit guide? Have you asked your angels? Have you asked your deceased loved one? Have you asked Jesus? Have you asked God? And I'll find myself, and even people who are we're so in the trenches of it that we don't even ask, almost like, are we not, and we is it are we not worthy of it, right? And that comes down to a lot of childhood stuff, right? Are we not worthy of the protection? Do we Are we not worthy of feeling like someone's there for us?
Well, I listen, that's that you just made a great point, because there's polarity in everything. There's dark and light. Not everybody around you is there to love you. There are dark forces that are always trying to pull you towards the other side.
Mhm.
It's the lower vibration to keep you depressed and sick. Okay. Yes, you can have something attached to you, as I've pointed out in many of my TV series, The Haunting of. Now, that is the truth, and that can attribute to a lot of people's dark nights of the soul. And there are many people that I've done readings for where they're like, "Listen, there's something pulling at me. I feel it night and day, and they come in the nighttime and they're pulling at me and they're tugging at me." And I'm never going to discount that, because I know that's very true and very real. That does exist.
Mhm.
However, that is the part where we are stronger. We have to just be aware of the light beings that are around us and call for the help, like you just said. Always know they're there to help, but they cannot get involved unless you give them permission to. I'm not sure if people even know that. Spirit guides, angels especially, they are there on call, waiting. But you must ask. And that is why when people are in trauma, or they're facing death, who do they call out to? If you're in a fatal accident, what is the first thing you say? Oh God, right? It's
Mhm.
just instinctual. So always ask. That's a good point you made, because help is always there. Help is always there. But you have free will. That's a gift that we were given too, as a human species. We were given free will to choose. Which do we choose? And I think we should close with this. People are much stronger than they even know they are. They really are. I have so much faith in humanity. And even if the people that don't seem to be nice, here's what I like to remember, and maybe this will help people in your audience. Hurting people hurt people.
Hurt people, hurt people. Exactly. That I feel like helps bring a lot of context when you're angry about something and you're trying to move through it and you realize, okay, what did they go through that made them this way? Right? So we can have that little bit of compassion. However, one thing I also learned is that that doesn't necessarily mean like if you have this severe narcissist in your life, okay, you might have realized and can have compassion what they went through as a child, maybe, but it doesn't mean you have to be around them, right? It doesn't
No, it does
mean
not, because there's a fine line between a person who suffered trauma and a person who has taken their trauma
right,
and use it to manipulate.
right.
So that's a game that they've learned as well. So I always say, be the observer, not the absorber. So it's like
Mm.
you're watching a movie. You can watch them from a distance, but you don't have to let them into your space, depending on, especially if it feels like a threat. But we have more power than we know. We can set as many boundaries as we want. And by the way, that goes back to the throat chakra. What aren't you saying? What are you stuffing down your throat? What are you holding back from saying? That's another reason why the thyroid can get atrophied and problematic. It's who are you not speaking up?
Mhm.
Maybe most likely you're not protecting yourself. You're not sticking up for yourself. So, it's using your voice and for the right reasons. And then we could get into all the chakra centers, but that just will give us a whole nother hour to go to the bone.
Well, we actually have you guys can listen. There's a YouTube, and what I'll do in this podcast note, I will put the YouTube of Kim and I talking about organs and chakras because we did that a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and that was really helpful. And so before we close, I just wanted someone I think on Kim's one of Kim's questions is someone said best practices for women in their 50s. So I don't know if that was for me or for you. Do you want me to say what I would say or
This practice for what?
like women's in their 50s? I guess she means like health wise, like what can I do to support my health? That's how I understood the question. Um, I would say for women in their 50s. So by by our 50s, we've probably been through some stuff in our life. So, testing adrenals, testing how well is your cortisol, supporting your adrenal glands are really important, especially as we go through perimenopause or menopause, because they take up they basically help what the ovary can't do to produce estrogen. So, supporting your adrenals, not overtraining, right? Not doing these like really crazy Barry's boot camp classes, doing nice muscle strengthening, which is going to help in perimenopause, making sure you're eating as we call nutrient dense as possible, fruits, vegetables, protein, making sure every meal has protein, really important because as women are going through these hormonal shifts, they're going to get the high and lows of estrogen, the high and lows of that anxiety. So making sure their blood sugar is balanced is really important. That's just scratching the surface. And I think we answered we can do a part two, but the last thing, so I did have, and I asked you your permission if I can ask you this. I had one follower who says that she keeps hearing her refrigerator buttons just keep beeping, and it would always happen before something happened in her, whether, but and so now she said, I don't understand Morse code. So she's now kind of nervous as she was texting it, I guess in the DM. She said it was happening as she was so I don't know if anything is coming through to you about what
Do you remember that movie, It's a Wonderful Life? Every time someone died, there was a bell, an
Yeah,
angel.
she actually yeah, she said something about that it would be before people would. I'm gonna look for the message. But okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, it's okay. Well, the one thing I do know about the spirit world, and I spoke to you about energy, and everything is energy, because they are made up of pure energy on the other side, outside of this physical dimension, they are able to work with energy, especially through the electrical system. That's the
Mhm.
easiest way for them to manipulate to get attention. So to me, it sounds like it's either a jokester type of a spirit guide that she has, somebody who uh, is like a fairy that likes to ring bells, giving her a warning of some sort. So
Yeah.
yeah, she has to start seeing the patterns. It sounds like she already does see the pattern, and it happens every time someone dies. I think that's what.
Yeah. Yeah, she said, "My uncle passed away 3 years ago and was trying to tell me that my dad had a brain tumor that we didn't know about. Then my dad passed a few months later and it stopped completely. Then it started up last September and it was because my ex-husband passed away. Then it stopped again. Last week it started dingling again and I have no idea what it's trying to tell me." So now I think she's nervous because it's kind of like it's like telling her something is about to happen.
Well, I have to say, if the pattern does sound like it fits, I know a lot of people that before somebody close to them passes away, they smell flowers, like funeral flowers, like orchids. That's a very common thing too. A lot of people do get forewarnings of deaths. Doesn't mean it has to be somebody close to her. It could be a world figure. Listen, we just had a death on the world stage happening. So she should really start to pay attention to um, the patterning after she hears the bells. Is it only just a death? And if it is, did somebody famous pass on, or is it always going to be somebody close to her? But there's something, I don't think it's a malfunction in the refrigerator. I don't. So
I don't think so.
I
I
I
don't.
I think some spirit guide or dead relative of hers found a way how to communicate through the refrigerator. And many spirits do find a way to connect to their loved ones, still here in the 3D through different means. I know some people that just turn on their tape, their audio recorder on their phone because it's so sensitive that it picks up sounds that the human ear cannot hear. In many of my readings that I've done over the years, and I did used to record on those cassette tapes, I've had many people play back the tape for me where you would hear my voice, hear their voice, and hear their loved one's voice talking right on the tape.
Wow.
Yes, I've heard it with my own ears many times in different circumstances. So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's just energy that's still there.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
vibrating at a different frequency. That's why, it's like when you see the fan going really quickly, you can't see each individual blade. But when it slows down, you could see the blaze. That's how you could see the people. But when they're spinning very quickly, like spirit, you kind of don't see them, except if
That's
you're,
a great analogy. You have a
yeah.
lot of analogies, lady. I love them. These are great.
That's how I learned
I
learned that.
love it.
That's how I teach. Bring it right down to the nitty gritty so people can understand. This,
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is
was great.
amazing.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you are oh my god, this is so amazing. Well, if you'll allow me, maybe we'll do a part 2. There were so many topics, and we said we wanted it to be as authentic as possible, and we wanted to
Yes,
just chat as 2 friends talking about spirituality and holistic medicine. So I wanna remind you guys to follow Kim Russo. It's at Kim Russo Medium. My Instagram is at dr.dr.susanc, like cat. And please grab one of Kim's books. They start with Happy Medium would be the best start, right?
yes,
Would you say that would be the
yes.
best start?
Happy medium,
Soul's
yes.
Purpose. And then you can stay tuned on her Instagram for any upcoming anything she's doing, from classes to events. And we want to also encourage you to listen to the old YouTube that we did, because we feel it's very helpful, because it does go through the body and we kind of scan through the chakras and what certain health issues could mean based on what is off chakra wise. So thank you so much, Kim, for helping us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Modern Day Naturopath Podcast with Dr. Sue.